Okay, so I work for a car driving service in my area. It's not very well known, and even though I Uber and Lyft too, I added this one to my roster because for some reason the people in my town consistently use it. There's a particular person who this story is about that I had contact with for a whole week. His name is Tom. At least that's what the app says. On my first night, Tom didn't talk at all. This is a usual thing that happens on these car rides, but there were two things that struck me as odd. First off was the location he brought me to. I'd pick him up around 3 to 4ish and drive him really far out of town, like to this rural wooded area at the edge of these woods. It wasn't a house or a park, it was just a random spot at the end of the street with woods. The entire time we'd been driving, he was nervous. I don't mean nervous to talk to me. I could visibly tell he was worried about where he was heading. He kept taking deep breaths and kept checking his hands, which were shaking. Once I dropped him off, I opened the window. He looked back at me as he was walking away, and he gave me this look, like he was so disappointed in where he was going. He goes into the woods, and I waited a few minutes because I was genuinely concerned. And I heard a loud, painful scream. For a second, I didn't know what to do. I didn't know whether to go in or to call the police. I chose to call, but of course, there was no service. When I got home, I checked my rides, and he had given me an approval rating after the fact, so I figured it was okay. Maybe someone was just pranking him. But then the next day, same exact time, same exact place, I picked Tom up again. He was in the same outfit, had the same look on his face, but he looked more tired and more worried, just really an overall aura of fatigue and dread about it. This dread, it carried over to me as I took him to the same spot, and I let him out again, and then the scream, it came again. The next day, same time, same place. Tom gets into the car. He's nearly in tears this time. I almost freak out at him and ask him where he's going and what's going on, and he just looks at me and shakes his head and then looks back towards the road. When I go to drop him off, I turn around and I look at him and I say, "You don't have to do this." He just gets out of the car and the process repeats. I do have to admit, I have what's called a savior complex. I want to help people and get them out of whatever, they're doing. It's gotten me into bad relationships and bad situations, but sometimes I am able to help people. That is why the next day, when Tom's name popped up, I took the ride again. When I pulled up Tom, he started limping towards the car and he got in. This is the worst that I have ever seen him. Our ride up was in complete silence. I kept wanting to turn around or, bring him somewhere else, but it compelled me forward. When he gets out of the car, I did too. I went to follow him to the edge of the woods, and, as soon as I get to the edge, he whips around to me and he screams.
Please.
I watched him walk into the woods, but, I just couldn't sit there wondering if he was hurting himself or being harmed, so, I followed him in. When I walked into the woods, it was daytime. I couldn't hear anything, not even my own footsteps. I opened my mouth to shout for Tom, but I couldn't even hear myself speak. I started to get anxiety, and sooner after, panic started settling in. I started to hear all these unnatural sounds and noises, and then soon my ears were filled with what sounded like thousands of Tom's screams. I ran out into the woods and into the street, and my car was still there, and I could hear again. It was morning now, though. Like, how was that possible? I'd only been in the woods for a few minutes. I felt like I was losing my mind, so I went home. Whew, it was my day off, and hell, I deserve it. I did not want to think about what had happened the night before. I had plans to have a glass of wine and chill night with a friend, so that's what I did. When I get the notification on my app, I just ignored it. I really felt bad for doing so, but I felt like I needed to distance myself from the situation. But, after that, I never heard from Tom again. No one's ever heard of him. Nobody knows him. And beyond just asking people about Tom, I haven't told anyone else this story. Part of me wants to keep trying to look for him and help, but then I remember what happened, and I realized some things are just better left alone.